English Hidden Podcast.
Daily Life English Conversation.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to English Hidden Podcast. I'm James.
And I'm Sarah.
Sarah, can I ask you something? What's something you're afraid of, even though you know you probably shouldn't be?
That's a difficult question. I think one thing I'm still working on is the fear of making mistakes, especially when I'm trying something new.
I understand that. Sometimes we're not actually afraid of the thing itself. We're afraid of what might happen if we fail.
Exactly. And sometimes we're even afraid of what other people might think about us.
That's very true. Think about speaking English. Someone may know enough English to have a conversation, but they stay quiet because they're worried about making a mistake.
Yes. They may think, what if I say the wrong word? What if my pronunciation isn't good? What if the other person laughs?
But most of the time, the other person probably doesn't care nearly as much as we imagine.
Exactly. We often spend so much time worrying about other people's opinions. But other people are usually busy thinking about their own lives.
That's an important lesson. Sometimes the fear is much bigger in our imagination than it is in reality.
I remember the first time I had to speak in front of a large group. I was nervous for days before the presentation.
Really? What were you afraid would happen?
I was afraid I would forget what I wanted to say. I imagined everyone looking at me and noticing every mistake.
And what actually happened?
I made a few small mistakes, but nothing terrible happened. After a few minutes, I became more comfortable. And when it was over, I thought, why was I so worried?
That's interesting. The fear before doing something can sometimes be worse than the experience itself.
Exactly. And that's why avoiding fear can actually make it stronger.
How does that work?
Imagine you're afraid of speaking English. Every time you have an opportunity to speak, you avoid it. You tell yourself, I'll speak when my English is better. The next time, you do the same thing. After a while, speaking feels even more frightening because you haven't practiced.
So avoidance gives you short-term comfort, but it can create a bigger problem later.
Exactly. You feel safe for a moment, but the fear doesn't disappear.
That's a really important idea. Sometimes the only way to reduce fear is to slowly face it.
Yes, but I don't think you should force yourself to do something extremely difficult immediately. Start small.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. If you're afraid to speak English with strangers, don't start by giving a 30-minute speech. Start with something simple. Say hello to someone. Ask a short question. Order something in English. Have a 2-minute conversation.
That sounds much more manageable.
Exactly. Once you do something small several times, it starts to feel normal. Then you can take the next step.
So confidence doesn't always come before action. Sometimes confidence comes because of action.
Yes, I think that's one of the biggest misunderstandings about confidence. People often wait to feel confident before they begin. But sometimes you have to begin before you feel confident.
That's true. If you wait until you're completely confident, you might never start.
Exactly. Think about learning to ride a bicycle. You don't become confident first and then get on the bicycle. You get on the bicycle, practice, lose your balance a few times, and slowly become more confident.
That's a great example. Confidence is often the result of practice.
Right. And we should also talk about the fear of failure.
That's a big one. A lot of people avoid trying because they think failure will prove that they're not good enough.
But failure doesn't always mean you're not good enough. Sometimes it simply means you tried something difficult and learned something.
Exactly. Imagine applying for a job and not getting it. You could think, I'm a failure. Or you could think, I didn't get this job. What can I learn from the experience?
Maybe you need more interview practice. Maybe you need to improve one skill. maybe another opportunity will be a better fit.
So instead of asking, "Why did I fail?" ask, "What can I learn from this?"
Exactly. That question changes your mindset.
There's another fear that I think many people experience, the fear of being judged.
Definitely. We worry about looking stupid, making a mistake, or doing something differently from everyone else.
And social media can make that worse. We see people who seem confident and successful all the time. Then we compare ourselves with them.
But confidence doesn't mean never feeling nervous. A confident person can feel nervous and still take action.
That's a really important distinction. Being brave doesn't mean you aren't afraid. It means you're willing to move forward even though you're afraid.
Exactly. You can feel nervous before an interview and still walk into the room. You can be afraid of making mistakes and still speak English. You can feel uncertain about the future and still take the next step.
I think that's what courage really looks like in everyday life. Not something dramatic. Just doing what needs to be done even when you feel uncomfortable.
Yes. And sometimes we need to change the questions we ask ourselves. Instead of saying, "What if I fail?" ask, "What if I succeed?"
I like that. We often imagine a negative result but forget that something good could happen too.
Exactly. If you apply for a new job, maybe you won't get it. But maybe you will. If you start learning English, maybe you'll make mistakes. But maybe 6 months from now you'll be speaking much more confidently.
So fear shouldn't always be a stop sign. Sometimes it's simply a sign that we're doing something new.
That's a great way to see it. And there's one more thing that can help. Preparing yourself.
Absolutely. Preparation can reduce unnecessary fear.
If you're nervous about an interview, practice common questions. If you're nervous about speaking English, practice useful phrases. If you're nervous about giving a presentation, practice it out loud several times.
The goal isn't to remove all nervousness. It's to become prepared enough to handle it.
Exactly. And don't expect yourself to become fearless overnight. Fear is part of being human.
So the goal isn't to have no fear. The goal is to become stronger than the fear.
Yes. And you can start today with one small thing. Think about something you've been avoiding because you're afraid. Then ask yourself, what's the smallest step I can take?
Maybe it's making one phone call. Maybe it's speaking one sentence in English. Maybe it's applying for a job. Maybe it's applying for a job. Maybe it's starting something you've been putting off for months.
Whatever it is, make the first step small enough that you can actually do it. Then take that step.
And after you do it, don't immediately look for another huge challenge. Take a moment to recognize that you did something you were afraid to do.
That's important. Every time you face a small fear, you're teaching yourself something. You're showing yourself, I can handle uncomfortable situations.
And that experience builds confidence.
Exactly. Confidence grows when you keep promises to yourself. If you say, I'm going to practice for 10 minutes, and you actually do it, you've built a little trust in yourself.
That's a powerful idea. Confidence isn't only about how other people see you. It's also about how much you trust yourself.
Yes. And that kind of confidence takes time. But every small action matters.
Before we finish, let's review 5 useful words from today's conversation. First, fear. Fear is the feeling you have when you believe something may be dangerous, difficult, or unpleasant. For example, fear can stop people from trying new things.
Second, courage. Courage means being willing to do something even when you're afraid. For example, it takes courage to try something new.
Third, confidence. Confidence means believing in your own abilities. For example, practice can help you build confidence.
Fourth, avoid. To avoid something means to stay away from it or not do it. For example, don't avoid speaking English just because you're afraid of mistakes.
And the 5th word is challenge. A challenge is something difficult that tests your ability. For example, learning a new language can be a challenge, but it can also be rewarding.
So, if you remember one thing from today's conversation, remember this. You don't have to wait for fear to disappear before you take action.
You can feel afraid and still move forward. You can make mistakes and still learn. And you can feel nervous and still be confident enough to try.
Start small. Take one step. Then take another. That's how confidence grows.
And maybe the thing you're afraid to do today will become something you're proud of tomorrow.
Thank you so much for listening to us today. We hope this conversation helped you practice English and gave you a little motivation to face your own fear.
Keep practicing, keep learning, and don't be afraid of making mistakes. We'll see you in the next episode.
See you next time.